Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the jungle. I'm your host, Hamilton Winters, strategist with Liger Partners. So excited to be joined by my friend and entrepreneur extraordinaire, Mr. Phil Castro. Phil, how you doing today?
What's up? I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. The Henley game is strong today. We didn't even coordinate this.
No, this is just natural. This is natural. This is just a good, nice little sweater. It's kind of I don't know, you're in Atlanta, but I'm in Chicago, so it's a little bit cooler. So I think This is definitely merited for today.
Well, great minds think alike. We even got the color coordinated a little bit here. So
yeah,
we'll start off here like we start off every one of our shows. Why don't you give us the privilege of getting to know you by giving us your background and introducing yourself.
Yeah, sure. So the name is Phil Castro, and I am the founder and CEO of BarPass, which is basically the ultimate happy hour app for consumers, but for bars. It is the ultimate marketing tool and event tool, especially post-COVID. Been in business for about almost 3 years now with BarPass, and before the model was a little bit different, incentivizing consumers to basically attend any bar events. But now with COVID happening, we're actually adjusting the whole model and pivoting to give bars the ability to charge a minimum for consumers to confirm that they will, spend at the bar, increasing check size and really maximizing on the revenue per square foot, since that is very important moving forward with limited capacities at bars nationwide. Along with running BarPass on the side, I also host a workshop called Startup Bootkamp, where basically we help early stage entrepreneurs progress in their journey, learn fundamentals of starting a startup, scaling a startup, and connect with a bunch of other like-minded entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, service providers. And I've been doing that business for 2 years, and I've done over 15 plus cities. Helped thousands and thousands of founders, including yourself. You sat in one of the workshops in Atlanta, and both businesses have been on fire, but obviously BarPass has taken a hit. So now we're pivoting and trying to help bars resurrect from this crisis.
Yeah, and there's a lot in that, so we're gonna dissect it.
Sorry, I know.
So Phil doesn't do that much. He's got a lot of spare time on his hands, as you can tell. You got your hands in everything, man. I don't know how you do everything that you're able to do, but mad respect.
Yeah, and I find time to hang out with the wife and drink wine too. So juggling.
It's amazing. It's amazing. We could all take notes on the way you're handling your business. Which one do you want to start with? Because we can start either way. We can start with BarPass, or we can start with Startup Bootkamp.
Yeah, I probably think it's more important to start with BarPass. That'll probably be relevant, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we just blanket it? How has this whole COVID situation affected BarPass?
Hospitality industry in general has been hit super, super hard. I mean, many industries obviously have, but hospitality has to be maybe number one or number two on the list, along with like travel. And it's super unfortunate. And it obviously it's close to my heart because I have a long background with hospitality and tech, so both of them. And with this going on, there's going to be a lot of restaurants that don't make it out, as well as bars that don't make it out. And right now they're projecting 25 to 30%, but depending on what state you're in, it's going to be much higher than that, which is going to be cumulative throughout the nation. Probably, I'm guessing like 35 to 40% will close down. And the venues that stay open, you got to think about this. Even if they're open when this whole lift and ban is done, what happens to like cash flow and P&L after that? How long do they have? So after a year or two, I don't know what that number is going to be, but we're never going to see anything like it in our lifetime again, which is unfortunate. So with that said, I'm trying to pivot and basically create a tool for bars specifically to increase revenue, maximize revenue with guaranteed check averages, and keep in mind with limited capacity and social distancing. And we're working on that right now to hopefully have it by, in the next 2-3 weeks.
That's great. And it seems like you're the middleman between you're an advantage for the customer because there are incentives to visit these bars and restaurants, I'm sure. And then you're also now, as you have been, an advantage to the bar or restaurant to get patrons to come and visit. Is that a good descriptor? Yeah.
Wildly accurate, because for consumer side, we're offering deals that basically the bars will create. So think about this. this whole platform, it used to be like a promotional tool, but now it kind of shied away from that. And now it's a SaaS product, meaning software as a service. So what a bar can do is they can basically take this tool and they can announce, hey, we're doing $20 minimums next Wednesday, but whoever RSVPs on the app, they will have discounts on the drink. So for instance, if an average drink is $9-10, now it's going to be $7 for Jack Daniels instead of the 10. So the consumer is incentivized because they know that they're getting value from attending and having a great time. But at the same time, they're committing to that $20 minimum that I mentioned that the bar is requesting via the app. So now the bars are much more comfortable with allowing these patrons to come in because they know they're not just gonna, kind of sit there and have a cocktail and leave, because now more than ever, square footage is scarce, and they're gonna have to do something to maximize that revenue per square foot.
Yep. No, that makes total sense. The what you do is so interesting. I am always interested to learn why you do what you do. And you gave us a little bit of background on that. Dive in, just give us a little bit of insight as to why BarPass, why is this a Phil Castro thing?
Sure.
And why is it near and dear to your heart? Because you can tell just by the way you talk about it that you're passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you remember this from the workshop you attended in person, but in college, I worked at a huge bar back at Western Illinois, and that's where it kind of all started, where I started to understand event planning, hospitality. I started like throwing events out there. The crisis hit in 2008, which is kind of ironic, different crisis, and couldn't find a job. So I started doing basically event planning and promotions right out of college in Chicago. And that business did pretty well. But about a year and a half into that, I was working for a startup that was backed by some pretty big venture capitalists in the Midwest, which it was kind of like an incubator where there's a ton of different startups that work there. Like Groupon started there, and along with other very prominent startups. And that like changed the trajectory, because now I had like both sides of education, meaning the small business side with like event planning and promotion, my own business, but then also every day I was, learning the ins and outs of like startups and understanding, the fundamentals. So I kind of collided both of them and been doing it since 2008. It's been a while. So no stranger to either industry. And I think that I'm the perfect person to execute it because I have both sides of that knowledge.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay, so I know that we have some restaurateurs, some bar owners. They're going to be watching this. If they are not already affiliated with BarPass, how does that happen?
Yeah, so this is, like I said, this is all new. Like we already had a product that was existing, but now with this new pivot, I'm still trying to kind of put all the pieces together. So forgive me if I don't have like all the best answers right now, but
totally get it.
Two things you can do. One, you can email me, and I'm happy to get my email out. It's phil@barpassapp.com. Anybody can email me, consumers, bars that are interested. But then also additionally, we're putting it on the website now where bars can like request to have access. We can't accept all bars right now, but we definitely could have a conversation and see when we might be able to work together. Because for now, we're doing Chicago, and then we're going to start moving to different cities. But with all this happening, I'm going to try and move a little faster than usual.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. We've never seen anything like this.
No.
So everybody understands if you don't have all the answers right now, but just knowing where to go and find those answers, and knowing Phil myself, it won't be long before he has all the answers, because he's a fast mover. So.
I am Hamilton. I think we share a lot of the same virtues and values, and I think you're a fast mover as well. So happy to be here today, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. And as always, for all the viewers or listeners, we'll be fielding questions throughout this, 25 minutes or so with Phil. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, and we can ask Phil on your behalf. He's a well of knowledge. So please make the most of your time while we have him. Let's pivot a little bit to the Startup Bootcamp, which is kind of how I met you through a mutual friend of ours that offered me a spot at one of your boot camps here in Atlanta. And then since then, we've just kind of connected with each other here or there. When was the transition between you having a startup and then you pivoting to focus on allowing other people to make the most of your knowledge through these boot camps?
Sure. So, I have, again, a pretty extensive background in startups. And in the beginning of the years, they were especially venture backed at a VC firm that I worked at. So I just started to understand, the ins and outs of it. And I think that that type of education kind of excels your career rather than just like studying it at a school, which, obviously I also graduated from college as well. But having that, being immersed in that kind of culture so quickly is invaluable. And with that said, I started guest lecturing at different colleges in the state of Illinois. And they would basically have me there for 45 minutes to an hour, and I would talk about a topic or two. And after doing this maybe 4 or 5 times and helping the seniors in different colleges, I had many people come up to me and they would say, "Hey, you should do like a whole workshop, because not only is the content amazing and valuable, but it leaves me wanting more. So if you did like a whole day, I'd be happy to like grab a ticket or grab a seat and do it." So after I heard that, I think 3 or 4 times, that's when I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do it, because not only am I passionate about it, not only is there a huge void and a gap between early stage, entrepreneurship knowledge and people that want to start businesses, but I, was very passionate about doing this. So I just literally tried one event in my hometown of Chicago at an incubator called 1871. It went really well. Did it again. It went really well. So I'm like, okay, this is working in Chicago. Why wouldn't it work in Atlanta or, New York or Miami or Portland or Austin? And it ended up working everywhere.
That's awesome. And how many cities have you done it in?
Over 15 plus cities. And now with COVID, here's another pivot from a different business. We went virtual. So I do it via Zoom. And I did my first one a week and a half ago. I was pretty scared, to be completely honest with you, because it's different. Even though the format is quite similar, the actual functionality and like doing breakout rooms and networking and having presenters is different doing it on Zoom. But knocked it out the park, and I'm so glad that I did, because I was pretty scared. So now I'm much more comfortable with moving forward. So I'm happy for the next virtual workshops coming up. I'm excited for it.
That's awesome. And I'm excited hearing you say that, because we spoke before you had your first virtual one. And we were talking about how is this all going to work, and I knew you were going to knock it out of the park. And hearing that is not in any way surprising to me. I'm excited that you're going to be doing more of those in the future, because that just opens up a whole different set of opportunities for folks.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, even when, let's fast forward a year or two from now, we're back to normalcy, or at least like 90%, almost there. Even when that happens, I'm still going to offer virtual workshops, because there's founders throughout the world, but I guess more specifically throughout the U.S. for me, that I'm not going to be able to go to their city. I'm just one person, So if I start doing it online, then you have those people that are not in the cities that I go to that are able to still join. So they're probably to be honest, like more underserved markets, or secondary markets, and that's fine, because there's a lot of smart people, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that want to get off the ground, and I would be more than happy to provide a great experience, even if it's virtual. But in regards to the in-person, I'll probably do, just throwing it out there, I'll probably do like 10 to 15 per year, I'm guessing. Yeah. And for virtuals, I will do probably about 10 a year. So altogether, 20 workshops. Let's call it almost half in-person, half virtual.
Which is awesome. And this is an opportunity not only for startups to learn more about how to get themselves off the ground into that next step, but you also have VC firms there, venture capital firms that they can pitch to right on the spot, don't you?
Yeah, I have. I usually have 2 angels and then 2 venture capitalists that will basically not only do a panel, so we'll do a live panel and talk about what they look for in entrepreneurs, any red tape that they've seen in the past, what their MRR should be, monthly reoccurring revenue should be before talking to people like them. Anything that will just gain tremendous insight in the shortest amount of time, like impactfulness, that's what I go for. And, we do the panel and asking those kind of questions. I, get those answers from them so all the attendees could hear. And then we have Q&A after, so the attendees could ask the questions to them. And then we go through a pitch session where usually, 5 to 7 startups will pitch for a couple minutes directly to the investors. They'll give them feedback. They'll ask questions. And if there's a match, which there already has been many times, they'll continue those conversations. So I provide not only education, but opportunity as well.
Yeah, and that's huge. It's as a alumni of one of your boot camps. It's almost like a behind the scenes episode of Shark Tank. You've got these guys that are walking in and they know all their stuff, and then Mark Cuban or Mr. Wonderful hits them with that question that they didn't really think about beforehand. So you're setting folks up for the questions, the hard questions that they need to ask themselves before they have that experience. And then you're also offering the opportunity to have that experience right after they've had the question asked.
Which is so great, because a lot of people, that their short-term memory is so bad, and if I give them and provide them, that education right beforehand, and then we just jump into, the pitches and the panel after that, it's perfect timing because it's still fresh in their mind. And, maybe they avoid a question or avoid a mistake that they wouldn't have if they didn't go through the education portion the day prior.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And as many of these as you've done, I'm sure there are hundreds of success stories or feel-good stories of folks that have reached back out to you and have greatly benefited from their experience in Startup Bootcamp. Yeah. Do you have a handful of those that you could share with us?
I don't want to say it specifically, like which companies, but I will tell you this. Usually there's between 2 and 3 startups in each and every workshop, each and every city that I do, or virtual now. There's usually 2 or 3 per batch that make it. And when I say make it, I mean like they're going through top accelerators like Techstars, or they raise their seed round, maybe Series A, and they're rocking and rolling, and they just avoid dying, because that's what startups is really about. It's avoiding death of the company. It's certainly a very tough journey, and a lot of startups fail. Everybody knows that. But if you can make it, and it's so little that do, but if you can make it, that sets the tone for the rest of your journey. And the first 2-3 years are the hardest, certainly. So when I hear that, some of the past startups that took the workshop are in year 3, 4, 5, that makes me quite happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I even told my business partner, this was a couple of months ago. So what's interesting, the more that I learn about businesses that are in situations like ours, the more I realize that the successful companies are not the ones that had all the big wins. They're the ones that avoided all the big losses.
That's right. Well said.
And you can hit a couple of landmines here and there, but it's being able to get yourself back up and keep marching forward rather than looking down at your have getting queasy and turning back.
That's right.
Because especially now, and with as many experiences as you have had, either yourself or by association with all the startups that have come into your midst. What's a piece of advice that you could give some startups that, Q1 of this year, you couldn't have asked for anything better. You really couldn't have. Almost everybody hit their goals for Q1 that I've heard of. And then Q2 is a totally different story. It's a total 180. So you're a startup that was looking forward to 2020 and you had that vision, and then it turned around. What's some advice you can give to somebody that jumped in at that time?
Oh my God. Well, it just depends on what stage they're in, because that is going to determine what advice I give, if that makes sense. For instance, if it was super, super early, maybe it doesn't make sense to launch during this time, depending on your business. So that validation process needs to hold off. But on the flip side of that, if somehow your startup idea might thrive in this environment for whatever reason, then maybe it is the perfect time, and maybe you need to accelerate, to really launch it to get customer feedback. But if you're let's say a seed stage founder, even like myself, like the actual startup is around seed stage right now, the startup in particular that I'm the founder of. So with advice I would give to a seed stage founder is, you have to be able to be liquid, you have to adapt, you have to just really be completely and wildly ambitious and still try and figure out how to put the pieces together and what moves to make. It is a waiting game to a certain extent, but now that we're hearing that, it could be 12 to 18 months until normalcy happens, you have to make moves quicker. So for myself, I was kind of, waiting, and I waited probably about a month and a half. But now that I know the extent of the damage that's going to be done and how we're not close to being out the woods, now something needs to be done, which is why in the beginning of our conversation, I said this pivot is about to happen.
Yeah, it's huge. Everything moves at the speed of business. And just because things seem to have slowed down, it doesn't mean that you have any extra time to react than you did before. Things are moving just as fast, if not faster, than they were beforehand. With that being said, I mean, you seem to have pivoted pretty quickly. Yep. I can only imagine you wait much longer, and that could be almost a fatal mistake in some cases. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, it depends. There's a couple different things you have to look at. Usually, if we're talking about startups, you have, cash on hand versus, your burn. So, those two things, startups often die from lack of cash, and usually that has to do with time. So, cash is like what oxygen is to a person. You know what I mean? So if you have a certain amount of runway, that's all you have. So when it's out, especially if you have a higher overhead. So yeah, you have to adapt pretty quickly. But again, I mean, it's like a balance. First you want to feel out how long or how impactful this is really going to be. And once you understand that, which I think at this point we know, then you start making those really tough decisions. And that separates amazing founders versus just okay ones.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned a statistic, which is the percentages of bars and restaurants that may or may not make it out of this thing.
Yeah,
it's pretty staggering to think that it could be 4 out of 10 that don't make it out.
Well, right now it's already going to be 3 or 4 out of 10 right now. So, another, when they're announcing, I don't know what your state laws are, but it's a little bit different everywhere. But on average, I'm guessing that now with the extension in most states, it's probably going to be, 4 or 5 out of 10. But again, going back to what I said earlier, you have to think about even the people that make it out after the ban is lifted, how long they have, because they're going to be hurting.
Be still on a sinking ship.
Yeah, you're still on it. So I wouldn't be surprised when it's all said and done that we're looking at like between 5 to 7 out of 10, which might happen, unfortunately.
It's unbelievable and it's sad. Getting away from the negative and towards the positive. What is one thing that you're really looking forward to with this new normal that's going to be? Because it's not, we talk about getting back to normalcy. Mm-hmm. I don't think that many of us understand that it'll really never go back to the way it was before.
No.
We can try, but that's the only normal that we know. So what does this new normal look like?
It's going to be years until we're back to normal, I safely assume. And what I'm looking forward to is, just kind of the things I think everybody is reuniting with family, reuniting with friends, going to do the things that we're used to doing from a recreational standpoint, going to restaurants, our favorite restaurants, big foodies, going to bars, having some drinks, like all that stuff. I can't wait to get back to. But, simultaneously, and maybe this is more of the cheesy answer, but I'm really looking forward to launching this product to help the bars because, again, I have a soft spot, being from the industry for so long, and just knowing that how much the bar and restaurant industry are hurting right now. So, providing them a tool like I explained is going to tremendously help them. It's going to guarantee them X amount of ROI. Because without it, they don't have that guarantee. It's kind of just a question mark, and it's crossing their fingers, hoping that they have this amount of revenue per day.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. If there's anything that comes out of this, right? It's yes, it's scary to be in a startup, and yes, it's scary to go out there, but it always has been. Yeah. This situation to me has brought more light to the fact that folks should have multiple things going on. They should always have a side hustle. They should have their fingers in multiple things just because you never know how something that you never expected could affect one of your businesses and you put all your eggs in one basket. Does that encourage you as a startup boot camp guy to think that folks might start thinking, what else can I be doing on the side that I need to start chasing instead of putting all my eggs in this basket that could go away tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly encourage curiosity and, inspiration, or even aspiration to be an entrepreneur. Like I certainly encourage that. But at the same time, just playing devil's advocate here, I also am quite cautious when encouraging entrepreneurs to have 2, 3, 4, 5 ventures or whatever, how many they have, like all those side hustles, because it could also bite you in the ass as well. So unless you're really good with time management and you've done this for a long time, then I encourage it. Then 2, 3 ventures is totally doable, depending on your skills with time management. But I would take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But yeah, it's always good to have the interest in different avenues, because if shit hits the fan, like it's happening right now, then you're going to have to do something else to make ends meet. So whatever interests you, hopefully you can go down that route and monetize somehow.
That's good. I like that. We're already at 25 minutes. That was the quickest 25 minutes ever.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does, indeed. How can they get involved with BarPass? How can they sign up for the next Startup Bootcamp? How can they get in touch and learn more about Phil Castro?
Yeah. So first off, LinkedIn. You could always just LinkedIn me. My name is right here.
Yes.
Just Google me. You'll see my ugly face pop up. For regards to BarPass, you could always download the app, but just keep in mind that it's only Chicago for right now, but it's going to be in different cities very soon. For the bar owners in different cities, feel free to email me at phil@barpassapp.com. Or you can go to the website, BarPass app, and go to the bar section. For Startup Bootcamp, that's probably more relevant for the audience. You can go to startupbootcamp.com, bootcamp spelled with a K, and you can see that what workshops are coming up. The next one is later this month on the 30th and 31st. We're doing a beta workshop. So basically, like people that are just starting out or in the very early stages, let's call it aspiring to pre-seed. Next month, we're going to do an advanced workshop for people that are a little bit further along. So let's call it seed stage. Maybe they already raised a friends and family, and now they're looking to raise 500K, $1 million from a venture capital firm that focuses on that stage. That is going to be happening the last week of June, I believe. I haven't solidified it yet, but if you follow it, you'll see the updates, and you can kind of keep being informed by the website, and not only the website but myself.
I love it. For anybody out there that has been watching this, I don't care if you've been watching it for a couple of minutes or the whole time, there are few friends that are more valuable than somebody like Phil, especially if you have a startup and you need that wealth of knowledge. Phil, I'm so glad that you came into my life and that I was able to come into yours, and thankful that we've still connected through all this. I can't wait till it's legal to actually be around you in person. I can't wait to buy you a drink because I think we could both use one after all this subsides.
I'll buy you 2 drinks. How about that?
Absolutely. I love it. I'll count on it. Thank you for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. And I hope that you found value out of this, because I surely have.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Hamilton. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for everybody watching and listening in, I hope you've enjoyed today's talk with my friend Phil Castro. I hope you connect with him. He is a wonderful guy, a friend of mine, and he deserves to be a friend of yours as well. Until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in to The Jungle. I'm Hamilton Winters, and we'll see you later. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.